the mockery. The edge of the frontier zone shimmered with the light of distant stars, a cosmic borderland where civilized space ended and the unknown began. Here, in this vast emptiness, the Zithari Empire had built its reputation on blood and conquest. For 3 centuries, their fleets had swept through system after system, crushing resistance with methodical brutality. They were the apex predators of this region, and they knew it. Admiral Krivoth stood on the command deck of the Eternal Dominance, his flagship and the pride of the Zithari war machine. His 4 eyes scanned the holographic displays with practiced efficiency, while his chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lighting. Around him, his bridge crew moved with disciplined precision, monitoring hundreds of vessels that made up Battle Group Omega. The alert came without warning. A sensor technician's antennae twitched nervously as she brought up the anomaly on the main screen. A single contact, drifting at the edge of their scanning range, barely registering on their instruments. Krivoth's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a Zithari smile. "Report," he commanded, his voice resonating through the bridge with the authority of countless victories. "Single vessel, Admiral. Small displacement, approximately 200 meters in length. Energy signature is minimal, almost negligible. It appears to be adrift." The technician paused, checking her readings again. "Admiral, the configuration matches human design." A ripple of amusement spread through the bridge crew. Humans, the newest species to stumble into galactic affairs. Barely a century since their first crude faster-than-light experiments, the Zithari had encountered them before, always finding them laughably behind in every aspect of civilization that mattered. Their ships were slow, their weapons primitive, their tactical thinking predictable and emotional. A human ship, Krivoth's second-in-command, Commander Vrix, approached the tactical station. This far from their territory, they must be lost or damaged. "Probably both," another officer added, triggering more chittering laughter across the bridge. Krivoth studied the data. The human vessel showed no signs of active propulsion. No weapons charging, no shields engaged. It simply drifted like a piece of space debris, tumbling slowly in the void. He had seen disabled ships before, watched them die slowly as life support failed and their crews suffocated in the cold darkness. It was always amusing to watch species realize their own insignificance. "Magnify visual," he ordered. The main screen shifted, focusing on the distant speck until it resolved into a clearer image. The human ship was indeed small by Zithari standards, barely the size of one of their escort frigates. Its hull showed signs of wear, scorching from what might have been weapons fire or simply atmospheric re-entry damage. Several sections appeared dark, suggesting power loss to major systems. It looked like exactly what it appeared to be. A dying vessel, far from home, crewed by beings who had ventured beyond their capabilities. "Shall I order a salvage team, Admiral?" Vrix asked. "Human technology is primitive, but their data cores might contain useful intelligence about their colony locations." Krivoth considered this. Intelligence was always valuable. But something about the situation struck him as an opportunity for something more entertaining. Battle Group Omega had been on patrol for 6 months, a long and tedious assignment with no actual combat. His crew was growing restless, their edge dulling with boredom. Perhaps a little target practice would serve multiple purposes. No salvage, he decided. "Tactical, I want a combat solution. We'll use this derelict for live fire exercises." The weapons officer's eyes brightened with enthusiasm. "Yes, Admiral. Shall I distribute targeting assignments across the fleet?" "Negative. The Eternal Dominance will handle this personally. I want the crew to remember what our guns can do." Krivoth settled into his command throne, feeling the familiar thrill of impending violence. All weapon systems to stand by. "Prepare a full bombardment sequence." Around him, the bridge came alive with activity. Officers called out status reports as the massive dreadnought's weapon arrays powered up. Plasma cannons charged, missile tubes loaded. Energy projectors hummed with building power. The Eternal Dominance carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, and they were about to unleash it on a target that couldn't even maneuver. "Admiral, standard protocols require we attempt communication first." A junior officer ventured cautiously. Krivoth's mandibles snapped together sharply. "With what? A corpse ship? There's nothing alive on that vessel. Look at the readings. No life support signatures, no heat from habitation sections, no electromagnetic activity beyond basic decay radiation." That ship died hours ago, maybe days. We're simply cleaning up debris. The explanation satisfied protocol requirements, though Krevoth privately didn't care either way. The Zithari Empire didn't answer to anyone out here, and certainly not for the sake of humans. All weapons locked on target, the tactical officer announced. We have firing solutions for complete structural disintegration. The wreckage won't be larger than a few meters across when we're done. Excellent. Krevoth leaned forward, savoring the moment. Before we fire, open a ship-wide channel. Let the entire fleet witness this. A moment later, his voice echoed through every vessel in Battle Group Omega. Attention all ships. What you are about to witness is a demonstration of Zithari superiority. The humans sent this pathetic vessel into our territory, and we will show them what happens to those who forget their place in the galactic order. Watch and remember why we are the dominant power in this sector. 40 warships hung in space, their crews watching the displays as the Eternal Dominance's weapons reached full charge. In the fleet's mess halls, recreation areas, and duty stations, thousands of Zithari warriors paused their activities to witness the execution. Fire at will, Krevoth commanded. The first salvo tore through space with devastating force. Plasma bolts, each carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block, streaked toward the drifting human ship in a brilliant display of destructive power. The targeting computers predicted impact in 3 seconds, then 2, then 1. Then nothing happened. The plasma bolts simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed by shields, but gone as if they had never existed. The human ship continued its lazy tumble, completely unaffected. What? Krevoth began, but his words died as confusion spread across the bridge. Recheck targeting systems, Vrix ordered, his voice tight with uncertainty. That's impossible. The weapons officer's fingers flew across his console. All systems showing green, Commander. No malfunctions detected. The shots were fired accurately. They just disappeared. Fire again, Krevoth snapped. Full barrage, all forward batteries. The Eternal Dominance unleashed another devastating volley. Hundreds of plasma bolts converged on the human vessel from multiple angles. A killing pattern designed to overwhelm any possible defense. The result was the same. Every shot vanished within meters of the target, as if swallowed by invisible mouths in space itself. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of electronics and the nervous clicking of mandibles. This wasn't merely unusual. It violated every principle of warfare the Zithari understood. Energy didn't just disappear. There had to be shielding, some form of defensive technology, but their sensors showed nothing. Sensor analysis, Krevoth demanded. I want to know what kind of shielding that is. Admiral, there is no shield signature, no energy field, no particle barriers, no gravitational distortions. According to our instruments, nothing is there except the ship itself. The sensor technician's antennae drooped with confusion. It's as if our weapons are being erased from reality. Krevoth's 4 eyes narrowed. This changed things. If the humans had developed some new defensive technology, that information was worth more than target practice. Perhaps they had underestimated Earth's scientific capabilities. It wouldn't be the first time a younger species had one clever trick. Charge the main cannon, he ordered. We'll burn through whatever is protecting them. The Eternal Dominance's primary weapon was a marvel of Zithari engineering, a massive energy projector that drew power directly from the ship's fusion cores. It could punch through battle station armor or reduce small moons to rubble. Charging it required diverting power from other systems, dimming lights across the massive vessel as energy flowed into the weapon's capacitors. Main cannon at 50% charge, the weapons officer reported. 60%, 70%. The human ship moved. It wasn't a dramatic acceleration or a sudden burst of speed. The vessel simply stopped tumbling and oriented itself with deliberate precision, its bow pointing directly at the Eternal Dominance. Running lights flickered to life along its hull, illuminating markings that had been hidden in shadow. They're active, Vrix said unnecessarily. They were never disabled. Before Krevoth could respond, every communication channel on the bridge crackled to life simultaneously. The voice that came through was human, speaking in perfect Zithari trade language with an accent that somehow made the clicking consonants sound almost musical. Zithari vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran expeditionary ship Phantom. You have fired upon us without provocation or warning. This constitutes an act of war under galactic conventions that your empire has signed. Power down your weapons immediately. The bridge crew stared at their instruments in shock. The human ship's energy signature had exploded across their sensors, showing power outputs that rivaled their own flagship. Systems that had appeared dead now blazed with activity. It wasn't damaged or derelict. It had been hiding. Krivoth felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine, a sensation he hadn't experienced since his early days as a junior officer facing his first real combat. It took him a moment to recognize it as uncertainty, perhaps even the beginning of fear, but he was a Zithari admiral, and the Zithari did not back down. "Human vessel," he transmitted, keeping his voice steady through sheer force of will. "You are in Zithari space. You will stand down and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you." The response came immediately, and this time there was something different in the human's tone, something cold and final. "You've had your warning, Admiral. You chose poorly." The Phantom's hull began to shift. Panels slid aside, revealing weapon ports that glowed with an eerie blue-white light. The entire ship seemed to pulse with contained energy, and Krivoth's instruments screamed warnings he had never seen before. "Main cannon at 90% charge," his weapons officer called out, voice cracking with stress. "Should I fire?" Krivoth stared at the human ship, at the power readings that made no sense, at the technology that shouldn't exist. Every instinct told him something was terribly wrong, that he had made a catastrophic error in judgment. But 40 warships surrounded him, and tens of thousands of Zithari warriors watched and waited for his command. Pride made his decision. Fire everything. The Eternal Dominance and every ship in Battle Group Omega opened fire simultaneously. The void lit up with enough destructive force to sterilize a planet. Plasma, missiles, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles converged on the single human vessel in the greatest display of firepower Krivoth had ever authorized. For one brilliant moment, he thought they might actually hit it. Then the Phantom fired back, and the universe changed. The revelation: the Phantom didn't fire weapons in any conventional sense. There was no flash of plasma, no streak of missiles cutting through the void, no visible beam of concentrated energy. Instead, reality itself seemed to ripple outward from the human ship like waves across a pond's surface. The effect was silent, invisible to the naked eye, and absolutely devastating. The first wave hit the forward line of Zithari destroyers. For a fraction of a second, nothing appeared to happen. Then the ship simply stopped existing. Not exploded, not vaporized, but erased. Where 12 warships had been, there was now only empty space and a faint shimmer of displaced particles. No debris, no escape pods, no final transmissions. Just gone. Admiral Krivoth's mandibles locked open in shock. His 4 eyes couldn't process what they were seeing. In his 3 decades of military service, spanning hundreds of battles and countless conquered worlds, he had never witnessed anything like this. Ships didn't just disappear. The laws of physics didn't permit it. "Report," he shouted. But his crew was frozen, staring at their instruments with the same incomprehension that gripped him. Commander Vrix found his voice first. "Admiral, the forward destroyers are gone." No wreckage, no energy signatures, no trace they ever existed. It's as if they were never there. The second wave pulsed outward from the Phantom. This time Krivoth watched more carefully, his tactical mind forcing itself to function despite the terror clawing at his thoughts. He saw the ripple effect, like heat distortion in atmosphere spreading toward the next formation of ships. The cruiser Relentless Fury tried to evade, its engines burning at maximum thrust, but the wave moved faster. When it touched the vessel, the cruiser's shields flared brilliant green for perhaps half a heartbeat before the entire ship folded inward on itself, compacting down to a point of intense light that winked out like a dying star. 8 more ships vanished in the same manner. The wave continued spreading, methodical and unstoppable. "Emergency maneuvers," Krivoth commanded, his voice cracking. "All ships scatter. Get out of range." But there was no range that mattered. The Phantom fired again, and this time the effect was different. Instead of waves, individual beams of twisted spacetime lanced out from the human ship with surgical precision. Each beam found a target. The battlecruiser Iron Testament tried to jump to faster-than-light speed, its drive spooling up in a desperate bid to escape. The beam caught it mid-transition, and the ship tore apart along dimensional fractures, half of it phasing into subspace while the other half remained in normal space. The screams from the crew cut off as the two halves separated across different planes of existence. The weapons fire from Battle Group Omega continued hammering the Phantom, but nothing touched it. The human ship moved through the barrage like a dancer through rain, each movement perfectly calculated. When plasma bolts got too close, they simply bent around the vessel, redirected by forces Krivoth couldn't begin to understand. Missiles detonated prematurely, their warheads triggered by some invisible countermeasure. Energy beams dispersed into harmless light shows. Shields are useless, the defensive systems officer wailed. Whatever they're using passes right through our barriers as if they're not even there. Krivoth watched his fleet die. The eternal dominance shuddered as nearby explosions rocked space, but the Phantom hadn't targeted his flagship yet. Why? Was the human captain saving him for last, making him watch as everything he commanded was systematically erased? 6 seconds had passed since the Phantom opened fire. 27 ships were gone. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel," the communications officer announced, his voice hollow with shock. "On screen," Krivoth said, though part of him didn't want to see the face of the being who was destroying everything he'd built. The image that appeared was not what he expected. Captain Sarah Chen was surprisingly small by Zithari standards, standing barely over 5 feet tall. Her features were delicate, almost fragile-looking, with dark hair pulled back in a simple style and eyes that held depths of calculation and intelligence. She wore a simple dark uniform with minimal insignia, and she looked entirely calm, as if she were reporting routine sensor data rather than overseeing the annihilation of an entire battle group. "Admiral Krivoth," she said, her pronunciation of his name perfect, despite human vocal limitations. "I'm going to stop firing now. Not because you deserve mercy, but because I need witnesses." The Phantom's weapons fell silent. The ripples in space ceased. Around them, 13 Zithari warships remained out of the original 40, including the Eternal Dominance. The survivors hung motionless, their crews too shocked to even attempt retreat. "What are you?" Krivoth asked, the question escaping before he could stop it. Chen's expression didn't change. "I'm a human, just like you assumed. But you made a critical error in judgment, Admiral. You believed your intelligence reports about our capabilities. You believed the data we allowed you to collect. You believed we were primitive because we wanted you to believe it." She gestured, and the display behind her shifted to show a star chart. Krivoth recognized it immediately as the region of space claimed by the Terran Republic, humanity's interstellar government. But the map showed far more than the 30 systems intelligence had reported. Hundreds of stars glowed with human territorial markers, spreading deep into regions the Zithari had thought empty or unexplored. "For the past 50 years, Chen continued, humanity has been conducting the largest strategic deception in galactic history. We discovered faster-than-light travel earlier than we told anyone. We found ancient technology that accelerated our development by centuries. We built ships like the Phantom in secret shipyards hidden in nebulae and dead systems. And we let everyone believe we were weak. Why?" Fricks asked from beside Krivoth, his voice barely a whisper. "Because we learned from history," Chen replied. "When a new civilization enters the galactic stage with obvious strength, the established powers band together to crush them before they become a threat. It's happened 17 times in recorded history. We decided not to be the 18th. She leaned forward slightly. "Instead, we appeared weak. We built slow ships with conventional drives and let you scan them. We established colonies in marginal systems and acted grateful when other species traded with us. We played the role of naive newcomers and you believed it. All of you. The Zithari, the Kelthoran Consortium, the Vex Unity. Everyone believed humanity was barely capable of defending ourselves, let alone projecting power." Krivoth felt his world crumbling. The intelligence reports, the encounters with human vessels, the trade negotiations where humans seemed eager to learn from more advanced species. All of it had been theater, a carefully constructed lie spanning decades. "The Phantom is one of 73 ships in our expeditionary fleet," Chen said. "Each one carries technology derived from multiple ancient civilizations we've found and studied. Dimensional displacement weapons, quantum shielding, propulsion systems that bend spacetime itself. We've been reverse engineering and improving upon technology millions of years old, while the rest of the galaxy fought over territory with weapons barely more advanced than chemical rockets." She pulled up another display, showing similar vessels stationed throughout disputed space. "We've been watching you, Admiral. Watching all the aggressive species that might threaten us once we revealed ourselves. The Phantom was here specifically because our intelligence predicted the Zithari would send a battle group through this sector. We wanted to see how you'd react to what appeared to be a vulnerable target." "You sacrificed your own ship as bait?" Krivoth asked, Horrified despite everything? Sacrificed? Chen actually smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Admiral, the Phantom was never in danger. Your entire fleet couldn't have scratched our hull. We simply wanted documentation of what happens when someone attacks humanity without provocation. We needed it recorded, transmitted, and witnessed. The full scope of what had happened hit Krevoth like a physical blow. This encounter had been broadcast automatically across standard military channels. Every Zithari ship in the sector had seen it. By now, it would be reaching the homeworld. Within days, every major power in the galaxy would know that humanity had destroyed a Zithari battle group in seconds. You started a war, he said flatly. No, Admiral. You did. You fired first without warning, without even attempting communication. Under galactic law, we acted in self-defense. But here's the thing about starting wars with humanity. Chen's expression hardened. We don't fight them. We end them. She gestured, and the Phantom rotated slowly, its hull panels shifting again to reveal even more weapon emplacements than before. I'm letting you live. You and your surviving crews will return to Zithari space and deliver a message. Humanity is no longer hiding. We're claiming our place in the galactic community, and we're doing it backed by technology that makes your empire's arsenal look like stone knives. You're making enemies of everyone, Vrix protested. The other powers won't allow this. They don't have a choice, Chen replied simply. We've run the scenarios. We've studied galactic politics for 50 years. The established powers are too busy competing with each other to unite against us, especially now that they've seen what one of our ships can do. Some will seek alliance. Some will try negotiation. A few might try attacking us, and they'll learn the same lesson you did today. She stood, preparing to end the transmission. Go home, Admiral Krevoth. Tell your superiors what happened here. Tell them humanity offered peace once and you chose violence. Tell them we're willing to talk, to trade, to cooperate. But also tell them that if anyone else decides to test us like you did, there are 72 more ships like the Phantom waiting to respond. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge of the Eternal Dominance in stunned silence. Around them, the human ship began to move, gliding past the Zithari survivors with casual grace. As it passed, Krevoth noticed something etched into the hull in massive letters, written in multiple languages including Zithari, TSS Phantom. Never underestimate the resolve of humanity. The ship engaged its drives and simply vanished, moving faster than Zithari sensors could track. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, leaving only a faint distortion in space-time that faded within seconds. Krevoth stood motionless for a long time, staring at the empty space where the Phantom had been. Around his flagship, debris from conventional weapons fire drifted harmlessly, but of the 27 ships the humans had destroyed, there was no trace. It was as if they had been plucked from existence by the hand of some vengeful god. Admiral, what are your orders? Vrix finally asked. The question seemed to come from very far away. What were his orders? Return home in disgrace? Report that. He had led Battle Group Omega to destruction against a single enemy vessel? Admit that everything the Zithari believed about their military superiority was built on false assumptions? Signal the fleet. He said quietly, We're going home. As the surviving ships began forming up for the journey back to Zithari space, Krevoth accessed the battle logs. The entire encounter had been recorded in excruciating detail. 8 seconds of actual combat. 27 ships lost. 0 damage inflicted on the enemy. It was the most one-sided battle in Zithari military history, and it had been engineered that way from the start. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had used them as a demonstration, a message to the galaxy written in the wreckage of Zithari pride. In the weeks that followed, the footage spread across every civilized world. Military analysts studied it frame by frame, trying to understand the technology the humans had employed. Diplomatic channels buzzed with frantic communications as governments tried to determine their response to humanity's revelation. The Kelthoran Consortium was the first to reach out, proposing trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. The Vex Unity followed, offering to share scientific data in exchange for access to human technology. Even species that had been hostile toward one another began talks about how to approach this new power that had emerged from the shadows. The Zithari Empire sued for peace within a month, their leadership recognizing that pride was worth less than survival. The treaty negotiations were brief and heavily favored humanity, but Krivoth's surviving crew members reported that the human diplomats were professional and fair, seeking sustainable peace rather than domination. But the psychological impact was far greater than any treaty. Across the galaxy, the story spread of a lone human ship that had destroyed an entire battle group in seconds. The details grew in the telling, becoming legend. Some claimed the Phantom had been crewed by artificial intelligence. Others whispered that it contained ancient weapons from civilizations that had transcended physical existence. A few believed it was humanity's weakest vessel, that the real fleet was even more powerful. The truth, as Captain Chen had stated, was simpler. Humanity had been patient, careful, and strategic. They had prepared for the moment when they would need to prove themselves. And when that moment came, they had done so with devastating efficiency. Admiral Krivoth never commanded a fleet again. He spent his remaining years teaching at the Zithari Naval Academy, where every new class of officers studied the Battle of the Frontier Zone as their first lesson. The message was always the same. Assumptions are more dangerous than any weapon, and underestimating an opponent can destroy not just ships but entire empires. The Phantom itself became a ghost story, reported in dozens of systems but never confirmed. Some claim to have seen it patrolling the borders of human space, a silent guardian watching for threats. Others believed it had been retired, its purpose served. But deep in classified files, accessible only to the highest levels of Terran Republic leadership, the truth was recorded. The Phantom continued its missions, along with its 72 sister ships, watching and waiting. Humanity had revealed itself, but not everything. There were still secrets to keep, still advantages to maintain, still reasons to remember that the greatest strength sometimes came from what others didn't know you could do. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, watching the sensors ready for whatever came next. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. In a galaxy full of predators, the most dangerous species was the one that everyone had dismissed as prey. The war that never happened continued, fought in diplomatic chambers and trade negotiations, won through technology and intelligence rather than blood and fire. And at the heart of it all was a simple truth that every species now understood. Never laugh at a lone human ship. You might not live long enough to regret it.